Dirk were pretty early on like getting into NFTs, like a few months before people. And to his credit, Baby is always talking about putting his money away. I don't think this is the safest thing, but hopefully he didn't put a 7-figure amount in. I would be very sad if he went broke from this.
Maybe check out the bond market first.
Yeah, I wanted to be like, let me get in contact with Lil Durk and tell him about muni bonds. But one guy, there's this guy, and I thought this dovetailed really interestingly with like crypto online culture. There's this guy, I don't know if everyone knows him, but he was pretty popular, Tory Lanez, and he was accused of shooting Megan Thee Stallion in the foot. And it caused a huge setback in his career. A lot of people stopped collaborating with him. Megan Thee Stallion, when she was riding very high, it was a bad look to collaborate with him. Like the Baby caught heat for that. And things were generally like looking rough, but he had a pretty active fan base. And he did something pretty immoral, but I think it's kind of clever, which is he sold his album as an NFT. So you could buy NFTs of the album, and then he would do these things. He would do something where like he would buy, or allegedly, this is what people think is going on. I'm not accusing him of this. He would buy one of the albums, the NFT albums, and then sell it for like double the price and be like, look, I'm already making people money off this. We're all going to get rich together. And it's like, holy shit, that's like genius to do.
Dude, they're all doing it on OpenSea is the name of this trading like NFT listing platform that they all sort of put them on. It's like eBay for NFTs basically. And someone did a study of the transactions on OpenSea and like I'm not going to say the exact number, but some X percentile of all transactions on OpenSea are made by the top, let's say 500 accounts or something. And it's all just sort of like people trading back and forth and seeing the value go up. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors behind a lot of this stuff.
But to go back to the original question about the celebrities, do you think this is like, it's like a split like that where like probably 30% are really into it and 70% are like, getting the thing?
I think there are people who, and here's where I may differ from some people. I think there are interesting philosophical questions around, let's say, musicians and music rights, right? Or artists who have been fucked over by the internet in many different ways, who want to figure out ways to like, because I sympathize with a lot of artists who are just like, oh shit, Redbubble made my fucking painting into a t-shirt and now I can't pay my rent, right? Like there's like something there, perhaps. Is this the form that it should take? I have no idea. But like, I do think there are people who might have been musicians who feel like they're getting screwed over by Spotify right now or whatever, like, are there ways for me to sell what I do, my creative pursuit, in a way that is not what the internet essentially destroyed a lot of how it worked, and I think I find that more compelling than some of the other sort of ways of looking at this. I don't know if it's going to work out, but I think that's probably a minority of people compared to all of the sort of really, I mean, there's a reason you're getting like press releases about the latest NFT, or that I'm getting them at least. That you guys probably don't have that fucking problem, but like about the latest NFT from X celebrity, because they know this is a super hot market right now. So I would imagine that's a much greater sort of proportion of folks.
Yeah, I've noticed that it's a big thing with people who either kind of fell off or like got canceled. Like, like people who did something awful, they're still out there. It's a great thing for them.
That's actually kind of fascinating. Instead of going to like Comic Cons and signing your like, I was the guy from Predator who got his arm shot off photo.
Oh, like, Weathers.
Carl,
Weather, come on, Weather's just doing okay, all right.
That's probably bad. Maybe that's a bad example. But like you see these like actors who are like, this was my heyday or whatever, and now I have to sort of trade in like.
Yeah, I was the 7th lead on Battlestar Galactica.
Thank you. That's like much better. Yeah. Like instead, like no, maybe I'll just sell my likeness in a different way. I don't know. Maybe that's a second line.
But I want to return to this idea of like that it's not just like there are examples of people just not blindly accepting this like shitty new reality that we're all being sort of groomed into ever so slowly. Yeah, you bring up the example of the Al Borland heads who were like, "Al, no, don't do NFTs." It's
of which I am one.
It's sullying the purity of home improvement. But you wrote an interesting article about like the biggest and most effective like sort of individual fan base pushback against like the astonishing speed and proliferation of NFTs into like penetrating every aspect of like what we take for granted of how we like interact with the culture has been gamers.
Yeah.
And could you talk a little bit about how what they're angry about and like how they have begun to sort of like stand up or just say like, hey, this is bullshit, this sucks, we don't want this in our video games?
Totally. No, I think it was so it was funny because this actually started with a bad tweet of my own that I got schooled by Lizard Rumsfeld, I think Twitter user Lizard Rumsfeld, who really ended up educating me on what the gaming community feels like about NFTs. Because I'm based in Oakland, out in Silicon Valley. I'm talking to these people who are all the time are like, NFTs are the future. We're leaving fucking Facebook to go do this. We're doing startups, blah, 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 blah. So I hear a very specific version of the world a lot of the time. And gamers are fucking pissed off. All of the big gaming companies want to incorporate NFTs into their next generation of their games. So there was this Russian developer that was making this game called Stalker, a sequel to this game called Stalker. And they wanted to incorporate like you could make an NFT of yourself in the game in the future, and that would make you sort of appear in the game. But it wasn't really, they didn't really have a good answer as to why you would want to do that, other than we want to raise money for our project, so this is why we're doing it. And I think gamers in general have just like widely rejected any version of NFTs in games because they feel like it's quote unquote the loot box issue all over again.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back to like fucking pay to play games where you have to like open a special box. I never played Fortnite, but I play COD or like Call of Duty, like a bunch of different things like that, and versions of like gaming where instead of making it pay $60 up front, it's free, but they're going to nickel and dime you on all of these future loot boxes that you have to open up, and maybe you get a cooler gun or a stronger gun or something like that.
And it's sort of like this paid, like it like dilutes the actual purity of competition in gaming, because like if you pay more, like you'll be more likely to win rather than just like putting in the hours, grinding away or whatever.
Yes.
But like, no, it's interesting that you say like out in San Francisco, like everyone you talk to is so immersed in this world that like they experience NFTs of like they've drunk the Kool-Aid of like this is a revolutionary utopian new horizon for human endeavor or whatever. But like for gamers, they've already experienced this bit by bit, and like when they encounter it, they immediately experience it exactly for what it is, like just a blatant rip-off attempt to just shake more money out of your pockets. And like this goes back to this interesting thing that we were talking about earlier of this like this new model of capitalism. Like it used to be like if you charge someone $70 for a video game, like that's expensive, but it's theirs and you can play the game for like infinity, or you can play it as much as you want. You don't have to keep paying. But now with this NFT model, there's like this like you buy the game, but that's not good enough. They realize this like subscription model, if you have to keep paying them like $2, $3, $4 every month or every day to keep playing the game and to progress at the game. It's a way of like the metaverse of like charging rent on digital space.
That's and it's never enough. This is VC, venture capitalists always love subscription businesses because it's recurring, continuous revenue that can be increased over time. If you have Netflix like I do, I used to pay $7, now I pay $15, and I think there's another coming. Or if you have Amazon Prime, that's going up another $20 in a couple of months or whatever, And so they take this idea of ownership, and what ownership once meant is now changing into a different kind of ownership. But now, instead of like owning the game once and just sort of having it updated in the future, no, it's continuously paying over and over for different things, including sadly the thing I paid for, which was a John McClane avatar in Call of Duty a few months ago.
Well, I mean, there are certain things that I think are worth it. Okay,
thank you.
It's not all bad. It's not all trash. If you can be John McClane in Call of Duty, I'd pay for that.
Thank you.
But,
I think that the gamer thing is interesting because the thing that sounds closest to like what NFT heads want them to be, like in their best of worlds, their best possible description, is skins in Counter Strike.
Yes.
Specifically, because it's one of the only games where skins have a secondary resale market. And
Yep.
similar to a lot of crypto, it's been a great vehicle for money laundering. People have wallets of skins. The most valuable ones are usually people in China or the United Arab Emirates. People have wallets valued at $500,000-$600,000. And
Jesus.
when a skin is made in Counter-Strike, it's not like in Call of Duty or in Fortnite where it's just like everyone gets the same copy. In Counter-Strike, all skins have a float value, and float is basically the quality. The lower, the better. And they all look like a little bit different and can have different randomized patterns, and some patterns become more valuable. And it all sounds like exactly like NFTs, more or less, especially with the secondary market and the money laundering. But the thing is, you get to take it out in the game and like flip it around and people see it and they're like, cool knife. Like the guy in our game yesterday who named his knife he, they, you know,
I would buy that knife.
It killed me. Great teammate, by the way. If he's low chance he's listening, thank you. What a great game we had on Nuke. But, it's cost like $60,000. It should not cost that much. Like
Jesus.
These things should cost like 10% of what they do. But there is a use for them in this thing. Whereas with everything else that we've seen, there's no real use,
I think that and I think that you're really touching on, these are secondary markets that have popped up around these games that have not been captured by the studio, right? They all sort of exist outside. I think this is a way for the studio to recapture this lost value of theirs that they see as like way more revenue that they're leaving on the table. And then they spin it as, you guys are owning it too. You take your digital Dragon Ball Z shirt to every different realm that you want to, and you own it, blah, blah, blah. But they are actually sort of reaping that back in, which is really a good way of looking at it, I think. Just when you compare it to the secondary markets that exist right now, I totally agree.
Yeah, and Valve for the Counter-Strike skin market, they get more. You put money into your Valve wallet,
Sure.
They take a percentage, blah blah blah. But it's not like they could be way more prickish about it. To their credit, I do have to say that like out of all the big companies like this, I kind of like Valve the most because they're more true to that old Web 1 ethos of like, hey, like just do whatever the fuck within reason. We're not going to tell you too much to do. We're not going to take too much of control of the skins market. They did sort of clamp down on secondary websites that were set up around skins, but I think that's a good thing because these were essentially casinos for children.
Yeah, and
they made it so it was harder to do that. They add these things called trade holds, but in general, I think they're not getting as big of a slice as they maybe could be.
I just I two final examples here about like what are the real world like practical implications of this ideology, and like the first one speaks to this idea of like that what we once considered like owning something is changing rapidly, and that is the example. I know you saw this, Mike, but like the truly insane and terrifying story about the medical technology neural implant company Second Sight, which is it's a technology that is like a neural implant that allows people who are blind to achieve some like rudimentary eyesight that allows them to like envision so that they can like interact and walk around the world. The story begins with a woman who was on the New York City subway when her implant crapped out, leaving her blind. But the point is that this company went bankrupt, and all of the people that have these like bionic eyesight are now unable to get their devices services, the software updated, and are essentially now their eyes are no longer their own. And it's their eyesight is dependent on a company that's gone out of business, and it's like similar like Boeing when they crashed that plane into the fucking ocean because they didn't update the software. This is now like a real like in your own brain, in your own mind. If you're not like if your subscription isn't up to date or the company that gave you eyesight just shits the bed, then guess what? You're blind again.
Imagine if you had a mini disc player responsible for like, you know, a section of your knowledge or whatever, and then that format is no longer in use anymore. I think that was what stuck out to me in that whole thing. It's just fucked.
Do they is anyone else making this?
No.
I think
Not this
God,
one.
Damn it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
even
it's
if they
not gonna
were,
be
it wouldn't be
compatible.
compatible.
When it
Yeah, it
shows
wouldn't be
up.
compatible.
You're gonna need an adapter.
Yeah, you need a dongle.
God, you have to go into Geek Squad to see again. That is, God damn, I wish I didn't hear about this.
No, you
This is
can't even go to
awful.
Geek Squad to see
No,
it.
yeah,
Ken.
it's like
You're,
they can't
you're
help you.
fucked.
It's rigged.
There is nobody.
there's
There is
no
nobody
one.
who will fix your eyes. Like
You
will
had-
update your
It's like
eye
a
software.
Tesla that
Yeah.
just stops in the middle of a highway. All
Yeah.
the fucking computers
Fucking
just go down
God.
and the doors won't open.
We should just, I mean, if you're one of those people and you're so inclined to do this, the government should just give you heroin. Like that, because like if you lost your sight, that's one of the worst things that could happen to you. You get it back briefly, and then the company's like, we like so the thing is, we put all of our money into municipal bonds for a town that exploded. We're actually the only people to ever lose money on muni bonds. So sorry, you're blind again. It's like, yeah, what the fuck do you do in that case? If I was one of those people, I'd be like, yeah, I would call my senator and be like, can I have heroin?
This is another example where yesterday's science fiction is today's how-to manual. Like somebody read